Today we're talking about travel and back pain. I'm here with Amanda Stokes, and data shows, Amanda, I'm going to set it up for us here, that there's a big link between travel and back pain. After an average of 5 hours of traveling, 78% say they feel sore. 67% of Americans feel like they need to stretch and move around after they get wherever they're going. And more than a third of Americans, 39%, say pains and aches associated with travel have stopped them from going longer distances or taking trips that they want. So that's why we're talking to you today, because I know I see you nodding your head. Does any of that relate to you? We've got a before and after for your story, but is that what it used to be like for you?
Sure. No, I definitely used to be like that. And I would say even earlier, like shorter stints, I'd really just have to monitor essentially all of my activity. We'll get to this, but I live in Europe. And so we travel a lot and we really enjoy traveling. And so I just felt like my whole lifestyle was being affected because of my back pain and my limitations. And if I didn't allow it to affect me, or if I tried to push and push and push, then I just found myself in worse shape later and stuff. And so that was, I can definitely relate to the long distance and the sitting for a long time or standing for a long time. Absolutely.
I mean, I think everyone loves to travel, but right, you guys are doing it right. As you said, you're in Europe, you're married, you're a mom, you've got two kids aged 10 and 12, and so you guys can go, theoretically where you want to go. At what point did back pain start to get in the way, and what was the pain like? How bad was it, and how was it getting in the way?
Sure. It actually got in the way pretty much right after we moved here, back in October of 21. I was pretty active. I was running a lot. And then I don't know, I thought I had some like hip flexor pain or something. And so I did a stretch and I thought, oh, wait, something is not right. And it was in excruciating pain. I ended up in the ER a couple of times just trying to figure out what was wrong. Sure enough, I had some herniated discs that apparently I'd had for some time and just didn't really know. I'd always probably, for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years of my life had spent a lot of time dancing and running and playing tennis. And so I was always pretty active and always noticed a little something, but it never really inhibited me until October. And so I spent quite a few months trying to get some relief through
On a
various.
scale of 1 to 10, are we talking pain at a 10, a 5? Where was it?
Um, I mean, when it first happened for that first week or so, probably a good 9 or 10. I feel like I have a pretty high pain tolerance. I really couldn't do anything. I couldn't get off the couch. And it was a little unfortunate because I had just recently started a new job. And so obviously I needed to, and wanted to be at work. And we had, recently moved here to Europe. And I thought, well, great. What about all of our travel plans? I got things to do, places to go. And so that was pretty impactful, just physically and mentally too. I thought, okay, now, how am I going to work through this, quite frankly? I think after, I got some essentially pain medicine and limited pain medicine that appeased it a little bit. And we started doing some stretching and some physical therapy. But I mean, right away, they said I needed surgery. And I thought, oh, that can't be the first option. That just seems a little too extreme. And so I went and saw many different doctors to get opinions. And they all said the exact same thing. They're like, there's nothing else. This is really your best option. If you want to get back to the lifestyle you are leading, this is really what you should be doing.
And I know, I mean, your pain, as you said, it started in the hip, it maybe in your, lower back or your in your buttocks region, but then you had nerve pain, you had numbness in your lower foot, and you said you even ended up in the ER one time from trying to stretch. Like this was serious. And
Yeah.
then you did have two surgeries abroad. Um, but that didn't fix the problem, did it?
No, that's correct. So I think I had my first surgery. I think I probably waited until like winter of spring of 22. And I essentially had what they call a microdiscectomy, where they just kind of scrape the bone a little bit to get off of the nerve. Because you're right, I did have a lot of nerve pain down through my foot. I don't know if my foot was numb by that point in time, but it was
Okay.
super sensitive. It was always really cold. I couldn't stand for a long time. I couldn't walk for a long time. I couldn't sit for a long time. And I was just constantly trying to move it because it just felt like it was stiff and sore. Uh, After the first,
Were you traveling during that time, or did the whole family just pause the travel?
I mean, we were traveling because I didn't want to affect every like part of our lives. But quite frankly, I was in just a lot of pain. I was just sort of tolerating it. We would go, to closer places, closer being relative. We would go to Germany or to London or to Paris. And I would essentially do what I could for an hour or two. And then I would either sit at a cafe or go back to the hotel and rest. And then they would go off and do some things for a few hours. And then we'd meet back up again. And so it was just a constant adjustment, a constant calculation of how far away are we? Where is the next closest? Where's the hotel? Where can I get some rest? And at some points, I actually was like Googling where's the closest hospital, quite frankly, in case I couldn't tolerate it anymore.
And
Um,
you're way too young for this. I mean, it must have just been so frustrating, right? Like,
it,
and just
it,
upsetting.
yeah, it was definitely frustrating. I mean, once I had the first surgery, I had a little bit of relief very temporarily. But I could tell probably within a few months afterward, like, oh, it's back again. Because my foot immediately went numb again. The pain was back. And sure enough, it was. So I actually ended up having two different surgeries in Belgium. And then my last surgery I had back in the States. It was in January of this year. So January 24.
So
Um,
that one was with Dr. Haynes at VSI, right? So
correct.
what after two surgeries in Europe that just didn't fix the problem, how did you decide to come back to the US, and how did you find VSI?
Sure. So at this point, I'd had the two microdiscectomies, and I even saw even more doctors in Belgium and the physical therapist. They all essentially said, you can't do another microdiscectomy. It's just not recommended. You really need a spinal fusion. They had actually recommended it at the second surgery. But then again, I thought, like, that seems very extreme. Like, I don't think I really want to go through that. As you said, I still felt young ish. I mean, even though I was feeling very old from all of this back pain. Um, and my scans, the doctors say, you look like they're a 70-year-old woman. So I'm like, oh, great, wonderful. No wonder I feel like that too. So in I finally, my physical therapist also works a bit with the US and at George Washington. And so I asked her for a recommendation, quite frankly. And she had reached out to some other local physical therapists in Washington, and they had recommended Dr. Haines. So I Googled him and did a bunch of my own research. And I thought, okay, yeah, maybe this is a good option. I was going back to the States in September of 23, so a few months before, and I made an appointment and just kind of got another opinion. He also agreed that I needed a spinal fusion and also suggested doing it back in the States, and since they offered a different procedure that seemed to be more sustainable for me. And
Okay, so you had the spinal fusion in
Mhm.
2024. Um, and I think when you laid this out for me, I think it's kind of amazing. So you were in the US for 12 days, and then you flew home
Yep.
on day 12, day 13, 7 hours home. You were back to work a week after that. I mean, that seems like a pretty positive surgical experience, but tell me what it was like.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was very positive, much a shorter recovery than I had had for the previous surgeries, and those were much less intensive and invasive, quite frankly. So I was really surprised that now, admittedly, week one was tough, right? I mean, I'm recovering at the hotel. And my parents had come down to help me kind of navigate while I was at the hotel. But by the end of that week, I was, up and walking a bit more, and you
Wow.
could just feel like, wow, this I think finally resolved it.
You
I
had the surgical pain, but you could feel that that other pain wasn't so bad?
Exactly, yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, the nerve pain had subsided quite a bit. All of the muscle tension and pain that I had in my back and like upper buttocks and hip like had also subsided, and I could just kind of feel almost like this sense of relief, quite frankly.
Was the
Yeah.
trip back to Europe 7 hours? Was that hard?
I mean, luckily it's an overnight trip, right? So I tried to
Mhm.
sleep a bit and um yeah, I, did everything I was supposed to, right? I got up frequently, I wore compression socks, I, took the pain medicine, I, paid for the extra space and seats and, just kind of did everything that I thought I needed to do to get through it. And it was surprisingly okay. It went pretty fast. Thank
And
goodness.
for all the travel enthusiasts who are watching this, like, okay, get to the good part.
Yeah.
Um,
So
Within 6 weeks, you were back on the road, and your first trip was to Morocco. Tell me about. This is the one I think where you sent me a picture of you riding a camel, right?
probably, yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I think I probably went on a less adventurous trip probably within a few weeks after, just
Okay.
Spain. But yeah, the big trip was 6 weeks after to Morocco. We were there for 12 days, toured through multiple cities and towns, and yeah, camped out in the desert. Yeah, I rode a camel, I rode a quad. We did some sand surfing. So everything that I would have imagined wanting to do, I did. Now, granted, I was nervous and wasn't quite, trying to navigate my new normal and stuff, but felt wonderful. And we would go all day and I didn't have to rest. I didn't feel, that like I was missing out on things. That was, I think, pretty hard for me and my family before. It was like, okay, they knew I needed to monitor my activity, but there were just it was very noticeable that I really didn't have to do that anymore. And I can say that's essentially how it's been for all of our trips since then. Every month or so we go to a new city or country. So,
Um, was there pain?
yeah, so the pain is pretty much subsided. I will admit, I think I still have some um, nerve issues. That's just because the nerve had been compressed for a couple of years. So I'm working through that. And that's pretty much it. Like I'm pretty much back to normal activity. I'm starting to run a little bit. I've invested, in better shoes, little things like that, better compression socks, better shoes. I'm just more sensitive to like listening to my body and like how I'm feeling and recognizing that I don't have to push it all of the time, but I can still enjoy it.
Okay, and let's celebrate all the things you can do. I know you said you've been on roller coasters a few times. That's a question Dr. Haines actually says he gets a lot from people, which is, can I go on a roller coaster after surgery? But beyond that, there's this incredible list of countries you've been to. Just give me a little bit of the highlights list of some of the things you've been able to do since surgery.
Okay, sure. So after Gosh, I know I'd have to have the list in front of me. After Morocco, we went to Denmark. I rode on the tallest, longest slide in Denmark, and it was, very, very high. And but yep, no problems. Yeah, I've ridden on multiple roller coasters. I've learned now maybe the wooden ones are probably a little too jerky just for my mental state, but otherwise good to go there. We have traveled to London, Paris. We're going to Egypt soon. We're going to Spain this weekend.
I know one of your emails you told me you just got back from Transylvania.
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been to Romania and gone to Transylvania and Bucharest. I mean, this is sad. I should have written it all down, but yeah, no, we've probably seen now 30 different countries in Europe in the last 3 years.
Are you surprised at what you can do now, or is this just after investigating it, you just knew that this is what you were going to be able to do?
No, I would say I'm still a little surprised. I think after the first couple not working, I was a little, and a spinal fusion just seemed again, it's not invasive, it's sort of normal, and but at the time it just felt like, oh, this is really significant. It's really going to hinder. You hear rumors about, well, then you're not going to be able to, bend your back properly, or you're going to have to be sensitive and careful and wear a brace. And I haven't had to do any of that, quite frankly. If anything, I just selfishly want to wear high heels again, and I'm still working up to that one. So,
And so, what do you want what would your advice be to other people? Because, yes, the spinal fusion is scary, back surgery can be scary. We all have heard stories about our parents and our grandparents and struggles they have. And I know, the doctors say the surgery now bears no resemblance to the surgery 20 years ago. But what have you learned that you would want other people to know that maybe wasn't so easy to find when you were doing your research?
Um, I think, I mean, luckily there is a lot of information online, and so you can do your own research. And so I think the more that I read about it, the better informed I felt, and the more comfortable I felt with it. Obviously, yeah, find a doctor that you're comfortable with too. I mean, I think, Dr. Haynes was wonderful. I had wonderful doctors here in Belgium as well too. And then physical therapy has really been important for me and kind of keeping up with that. And then, like I said, other silly things like investing in proper shoes and monitoring how I'm standing. It's just, and like working on your core. Like it's little things that but you just kind of forget about, or you just don't put the focus on. And now I've just realized how much of an impact it has on me and my, abilities to kind of just maintain the lifestyle that I want to maintain here.
Awesome. Well, your story is amazing. Have a wonderful trip to Egypt. Here's hoping you get into your high heels in 2025.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
much. I know.
Amanda.
All
Great
right.
talking to you.